Hola y buenos dias. My name is Jim McGovern and I represent the 2nd Congressional District of Massachusetts in the United States Congress. I'm so happy to join all of you today for the 18th Annual Hemingway Colloquium. I'm sorry that I can't be with you in person today due to the pandemic, but it is a testament to all of you as well as to the legacy of Ernest Hemingway that we are all still gathering together virtually for this important and special conference. I want to especially recognize and thank many of you who are here today, and in particular Mary Jo Adams, the Executive Director of the Finca Bahia Foundation, Grisel Fraga and Isabel Ferrero of the Museo Hemingway, Gladys Rodriguez, former Director of the Museo Hemingway, and many others who have worked hard over the past 2 decades to preserve the legacy of Ernest Hemingway for future generations. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about the impact Ernest Hemingway has had on U.S.-Cuba relations. Because the reality is that today, even 60 years after his death, even after years of political forces trying to pull us apart, Hemingway's legacy is still uniting the United States and Cuba. And I think that's a testament to the power and the persuasiveness of his words and his ideas. I've long been interested in Cuba. My first visit to Cuba was in 1979. When I was a college student at American University. I was a history major and my college thesis was U.S. intellectuals' descent from U.S. foreign policy towards Cuba from 1958 to 1963. I thought then that U.S. policy towards Cuba was misguided, self-defeating, and even stupid. I continued to visit Cuba in the 1980s when I was an aide to Congressman Joe Moakley of South Boston. And when I got elected to Congress in 1996, my visits to the island continued, and I became a vocal advocate for normalizing relations between our two nations. In fact, in November of 2000, I asked Bill Clinton personally to fly Air Force One to Havana and declare that the Cold War was over, call for an end to the embargo, and push for total normalization of relations. I think he really wanted to do it, but it was in the last weeks of his presidency, and he was focused on trying to get a peace agreement between the Israelis and the Palestinians, so it wasn't to be. You know, the story of my involvement with the Finca Bahia begins in 2001 when Jenny Phillips approached me expressing interest in visiting the Finca Bahia, Hemingway's Cuba home. She wanted to learn if there were papers or documents that referenced her grandfather, Max Perkins, who was Ernest Hemingway's editor. It was a challenging request because while one could visit Finca Bahia, access to all the contents in the house was not available to the public. During one of my visits to Cuba, I raised this issue directly with then Cuban President Fidel Castro, who immediately introduced me to the then Minister of Culture, Abel Prieto, and shortly afterwards we met with Marta Arona, who was then the President of the Cuban National Council of Historic Patrimony. Also introduced us to Gladys Rodriguez and her incredible team. And then Jenny and her husband Frank Phillips, who was a reporter for the Boston Globe, were given access to a treasure trove of Hemingway documents. Marta, Gladys, and all the Cubans involved with protecting Ernest Hemingway's legacy for decades with limited resources deserve the world's thanks. And Hemingway lovers and scholars owe them a debt of gratitude. They cared for Hemingway's house, his boat, and his documents lovingly. If it weren't for them, there would be nothing left. They are true professionals and are extremely good at what they do. But most of all, they are very, very, very good people. And I'm proud that I've had the chance to work with them, and I'm proud to call them my friends. Shortly after the initial meeting, we began to talk about working together, creating a joint collaboration to protect and preserve Hemingway's legacy in Cuba. We were joined by the Social Science Research Council and the Kennedy Library and members of the Hemingway family in our efforts. And working with the Cubans, we came up with a contract listing what each of us would do. On November 11th, 2002, we signed the contract at the Hemingway House before a mob of press. Joining us at this incredible event was President Fidel Castro, who signed the contract. What happened after that was nothing short of incredible. Our collaboration worked. It produced results, and today we see that the Finca Bahia is alive and well. The house is in good shape. Hemingway's boat, the Pilar, has been refurbished. Documents have been preserved and digitized. The books are being preserved, and an on-site preservation workshop now allows much, much more work to go on. We created a foundation called the Finca Vehia Foundation with the incredible Mary Jo Adams, who you're also hearing from today as executive director, and experts like Bob Vila on its board of directors. And we are blessed with a Cuban team that not only leads us, but they inspire us. 60 years after Hemingway's death, his treasured Finca Vehia and the collection within, rich in memory, rich in meaning, is a heritage belonging to both Cubans and Americans. It continues to bind and unite our two countries together, even in the face of insurmountable odds. It's a reminder not only of how far we have come, but also what is possible if we cast cynicism aside and work together on areas where we can find agreement. You know, when Ernest Hemingway died in July 1961, it was 3 months after the Bay of Pigs invasion. Relations between the United States and Cuba were at its lowest point in our troubled history. The only thread of civility between our two countries was provided by the legacy of one of America's most famous literary figures, Ernest Hemingway. In a quiet arrangement, President John F. Kennedy and Fidel Castro allowed Hemingway's widow, Mary Hemingway, to return that summer to her home outside Havana to collect some personal belongings, papers and several manuscripts that became Hemingway's posthumous novels. During that summer, Mary turned over Hemingway's beloved Finca Vehia, the villa that had been his home since 1939, and it was turned over to the people of Cuba. Nearly half a century later, Hemingway's spirit once again serves as a critical bridge between our two nations and our two peoples. You know, I urged President Obama to try to repair relations between our two countries, which, to his credit, he did. And I accompanied him when he visited Cuba. And during that visit, President Obama's wife, Michelle Obama, actually visited the Finca Vehia. And I also brought Secretary of State John Kerry to visit this incredible place. But Hemingway has a quote from The Old Man and the Sea. And it goes like this: "Every day is a new day. It is better to be lucky, but I would rather be exact. Then when luck comes, you are ready." Unfortunately, when luck struck under President Obama, we were not ready. We moved too slowly on both sides. And sadly, during the most recent presidential administration under Donald Trump, we lost ground. Relations between our two countries just deteriorated under President Trump. And that, quite frankly, is a sad reality that we are now dealing with. But even during a very tense time between the United States and Cuba, a period marked by increased U.S.-imposed legal and bureaucratic obstacles, Cubans and Americans of goodwill continue to find a way to work together with love and respect to preserve this vital piece of our shared history and shared culture. Despite these challenging few years, Hemingway continues to unite the United States and Cuba. And in doing so, the historic collaboration to save Finca Vehia provides a roadmap about how we might build a better future. It reminds us that in the most difficult of times, people of goodwill with common purpose can come together, collaborate, and make great things happen. Now, we can't wave a magic wand and eliminate decades of suspicion and mistrust, but we do have an opportunity right now, an opening to rethink the failed Cold War policies that for too long have held both the United States and Cuba back. You know, we won't agree on everything. I'm sure we will have strong and passionate disagreements over issues small and large. But we don't have to agree on everything to agree on something. And on that something, let us forge ahead to find common ground. In Hemingway's memory, I believe we must work out our differences in good faith as neighbors, to end the U.S. embargo, to allow more collaboration between our two countries on issues of shared concern, to allow the American people, our best ambassadors of goodwill, to travel to Cuba, to engage with Cuba on areas of disagreement in constructive ways that benefit the Cuban people. I eagerly await the day when the people of the United States can freely travel to Hemingway's beloved Lookout Farm to reflect on his incredible life and legacy. So I want to say to all of you, thank you so much. Stay safe. Muchísimas gracias.